Hello everyone, this is Isabel, and I'm back with another art journal page. I hope everyone is doing well and keeping safe. I usually do these videos with no talking since I'm demonstrating, not really teaching. But since I started making these videos, I have taken my family along for the ride. I asked for feedback from my teenage boys and they have recommended I talk in all of them. So this is me taking their advice. Leave me a comment if you have any advice for me on how to do a better job with my videos. If you like my content, please consider subscribing and liking my videos so I know that someone is watching. Comments also make my day. For this page, I used some of the collage paper I created on the last video. If you'd like to see how I did that, I'll place a link in the description box. I used very little as background. I tore off some images that looked good to me and glued them down randomly. I used matte medium to glue since the paper was so thin. When using this type of light paper, I glue under the image and over the image. I also already know that I will be using water and ink later. I'm trying to place the images I like at corners so that they can be seen through all the layers at the end. I am now using gesso to lighten up the page and blend in the collage paper. I also use stencils to add some texture. I just bought these stencils, so that's why I'm using them. Usually I use whatever I have on top of my table. I then use texture paste for the next stencils. This paste gives more texture because of its thickness. Again, I'm stenciling around the edges since I know that I will be putting an image in the center of the page. When creating my art journal pages, I like to know what will be the main sentiment or image and where I'm going to place it so that I know that everything I'm adding will not be covered. I have a hard time covering my work or pretty paper that I may be using. Does anyone else feel that way? I am now applying Distress Oxide ink that I diluted with water. I ended up buying Distress Oxide Reinkers because the ink pads are so much more expensive. I really wanted the ink pads, but I really wanted to try the Oxide inks, so this was the way to get them without spending so much money. The ink really goes a long way since you're just using small amounts. The colors are so pretty and bright, and this way you can work with how bright or light you want them. Now that there is so much color, I am going to stamp randomly to put some black ink back into the page. I also ink with similar colors directly over the stenciling to make the images more visible. Now I'm going to work on the main image of the page. This is a pretty vase with flowers that I got off the internet. I'll give you a tip with these images. If you don't have a lot of stamps, search for images of things you'd like to use in your art. I recommend when you search for these images that you set your tools to labeled for reuse or labeled for reuse with modification so that you feel secure that you have permission to use the image. I don't sell my art, so I'm not worried about copyright, but it makes me feel better knowing that I am using images with permission. This is really up to you, but just sharing this tip so that you know that this is available to you when searching for the images. Okay, to continue, I am also using the Distress Oxides for the coloring of the whole image. This image is really pretty and really allows for coloring. I really don't know the rules of coloring since I'm not an art rules expert. I don't know anything about shading, blending, or hues and saturation. I just color to make it look pretty in my eyes. So what do I think about the Distress Oxides? I love them. Like I said, I really wanted the ink pads, but I already spent so much money on crafting. I had to find a way to get them, but not spend so much. The Reinkers were my compromise. I got a set of 12 colors that I don't have in the Distress inks. They are so very different in how the colors set on the paper. So if you don't have a lot of money to spend on oxides, but really want them, buy the Reinkers. Maybe later I can buy the ink pads for them. For now, I will enjoy them for watercoloring. I finish off sprinkling the ink on the image with flicking the brush. I have to be careful when I do this so I don't make a mess of my image. I then stamp a hello sentiment on a scrap of paper. I cut small triangles on both ends of the paper to make a flag. I finish off the image with applying ink to the edges. I also apply ink to the edges of the sentiment and ink lightly over the whole image. Now off to the hardest part of placing everything together. I decide that I need to add something else, so I reach for a scrap of doily that I ink up with a similar color. I start adding some of the tissue paper, but then decide it's too much. I add some scrapbook paper to place over the doily and under the flowers. I commit and then I glue everything together. I finish off by inking the edges of the whole page. I think my page looks very busy and dark in the background, but I like the brightness of the image in the center. Overall, I am okay with the whole page, and that's okay. Not every page will be loved in your journal. That's it for this page. I thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like if you haven't already. Bye.